Alright, my friends, let me know if you can hear me okay. Haven't used this mic in a long time. B'ezrat Hashem, Motzei Shabbat, I will be interviewing a very special guest. I don't know if we're going to do this live. We may do it live. If not, because this person does not have internet in his house, we're going to pre-record, and then B'ezrat Hashem, Saturday night we'll be posting that interview. Saturday night or Sunday, we'll see. And that should be interesting, guys. So guys, I got into a discussion with this one gentleman. I don't know why, but on Twitter, and we got to the part of the conversation where he started saying how, America, the whole typical thing, I'm just paraphrasing, how America just kind of butts into everything and all this kind of stuff, And I told him, man, what's interesting to me is how people are upset at America for being, the hegemon of the world and, so to speak, the most powerful military in the world and all these kind of things. Typical. Then they all say typical American this and typical American that. We got into a discussion about how Trump, when he was the president, basically was, he was very active in defunding NATO, or pulling back a lot of American taxpayer dollars from NATO. And I guess he was pushing Germany to grow their military as a percentage of their GDP. And this guy started telling me how, now Trump is warning people about Germany and Japan building up their militaries and how that's a bad thing. So it's almost like he's saying it's like doublespeak from Trump. And I said to him, I don't see how that is, because here we're talking about, there's a difference between spending an allotted amount on military as percentage of your GDP and a limited, a set amount, versus building up your military, indiscriminately, because there's a conflict that was essentially the result of a weak American president named Shmo Shmaida. So two different things, guys. We got into a discussion back and forth, this and that and the other. And I said to him, you're upset about American hegemony, whatever it is. And I said, man, before America, there was Great Britain, there was UK. Before UK, there was France. Before France, there was Spain. Ladies and gentlemen, there is always a global or number of, whether it's 1, 2, or even 3, global hegemon in the world. And that actually comes from somewhere. That whole thing of nations asserting themselves comes from something. There's an idea in the Torah, in Dvarim, in Deuteronomy, and also in the prophets, I believe it's Zechariah, speaks about that every nation has a ministering angel. And the whole idea is that when these ministering angels, at any given time, various, eras or spans of time or centuries or millennia, they want to assert themselves, whether it's culturally, militarily, what have you. And so, for example, with war, when these angels go to war with each other, the nations that those angels are assigned to, those ministering angels, Malachei Sharet, not the same Malachei Sharet that you hear on Shabbos, that we're going to hear in a couple hours, B'ezrat Hashem, but these angels that are assigned, and they assert themselves. And so what you see in the world is nations that assert themselves for the purpose of, usually in their own mind, in their own very unique way, or sometimes even misguided way of trying to fix the world. You know, you had Hitler asserting himself. He said, we want to release ourselves from the shackles of this, whatever you want to call morality that the Jew gave to the world. You know, what is it? The blemish, the conscience, and he mentioned the other blemish was circumcision, Brit Milah. You know, you had Stalin asserting himself in whatever way, or communism, you know, by way of communism, which really wasn't really communism, but however that was, right? It was asserting itself. You know, they wanted to bring that idea to the world. Then you have, you know, now you have America asserting itself for the past however many years, bringing what they think is American ideal or freedom or whatever values, sometimes in a misguided way, to other parts of the world. You see, when they try to do it in the Middle East, it doesn't really work so well, because that angel of that nation, and that nation by extension, you know, these are incompatible ideas, these are incompatible values. Well, you could say, yeah, there are some people who accept these things. Speaking of the Middle East, guys, I just took a look at, I have to get gas very soon, and this car that I'm driving here, unfortunately, it's a high, you know, the engine is 265 horsepower, Nissan Maxima, even though it's a little older, but the car only takes super, ladies and gentlemen, $5 a gallon. Thank you very much, Mr. Shmo Shmaida. You got a 16-gallon tank. I'm going to pay $80 to fill up this tank, my friends. Listen, you could say in Israel, for a 4-cylinder car, it's about the same. Right? It's 200 shekels. But guys, we're not in Israel. We ain't in no Israel. Okay? Absurd. Completely absurd. Anyways, my friends, I may just wait till the next one. I may just do that. But in any event, so yeah, we have all these nations inserting themselves. You had even China doing it through their version, you know, Maoism. You had many different civilizations, Rome at their time, Greece at their time, and what did they try to do? You know, they tried to spread, either, again, militarily or culturally, their idea, their culture. They said, the angel said that I am the one that Hashem has designated to be the standard bearer for the world of ideas, of consciousness, of culture, what have you, you know, economics, etc. And I'm going to assert myself. My friends, you know, it's funny, like, if you look at modern history, you have these entities called, whether it was the League of Nations or the UN, that basically got together. It's almost like a bunch of angels getting together and saying, well, okay, whenever one of these angels wants to assert themselves, we're going to put the shackles on them. We're going to keep it in check. But as you could see, the UN, being a corrupt and toothless organization, you know, on this earthly plane, as it were, you understand that there's no, even if all the angels of the, you know, let's say the 70 template nations get together, even though there's more, but like the 70 nations that, as enumerated in the Torah, get together and say, we're going to stop this ministering angel from asserting itself, you see, it doesn't really work, because it's something that Hashem designated. You know, it's something that, yeah, it's something that Hashem said, okay, now it's the turn of this malach to assert itself. And these guys, these malachim, they don't have free will. Essentially what they're doing is they're doing the bidding of Hashem, who is the ultimate chess master. So, my friends, right now, with all that said, what do we see today? We see that there were two kind of main angels for a very long time: the Soviet Union, America, and there's a few key players in Europe, now China, and now these malachim are rising. They're all rising. Not only they're rising, guys. You notice every single empire, every single one of these former empires wants their empire back, right? The Ottoman Empire wants empire back. Iran, Persia wants their empire back. All of these people want the empire back. Guys, you notice the only nation that lost its land, right? And that came back and revived the language, a dead language to everyday use, was us, the Jewish people. But that's a whole other discussion. But you see that China, once whatever empires they had dynasties, let's say. It was called dynasties. Ottoman, Persia, Europe wants some sort of version of it, which is really Rome, kind of amalgamated Europe. The Soviet Union wants the Soviet Union back. And my friends, our sages tell us that before Mashiach, that all of these malachim would essentially rise and would start to make a stir, as it were, and would demand their stature, their previous stature before. One second, my friends, I'm just checking where I'm supposed to be going here. I hope this isn't taking me in some crazy direction. Okay. Anyway, guys, sorry. So, yeah, everybody wants their empire back, guys. And you see that these malachim are going to war. And we see that now, there's a stir, right? We see not just the Russia-Ukraine thing. We see yesterday, supposedly, allegedly, by accident, quote unquote, air quotes, I believe it was India sent some sort of projectile into Pakistan. Right? Then you have this whole thing with China and Taiwan. Ladies and gentlemen, notice how all of these, so to speak, conflicts are essentially conflicts between people who are basically the same people. You have Russians versus Ukraine. It's essentially the same people. They're brothers. You have China and Taiwan. It's the same people. Mamash, the same people. Pakistan and India, the same people. It's ethnically the same people. It's almost like you have these nations which are, it's a nation going to war essentially against itself. My friends, they're not, it's nation states, countries going to go, to war against each other, but it's essentially nations going to war within themselves. Almost like, I guess you can call it civil war. It's not quite civil war, but you understand. It's like, there's nothing, it's not like Italy versus Spain, right? It's, China, Taiwan, Pakistan, India, Ukraine, Russia. These are the same people. It's like punching yourself in the face. Or kicking yourself in between, in the valuable parts. You know what I'm saying? So, guys, I find it to be very fascinating. And you notice, America, the angel of America, he's standing back, declining. And you see now the one and the one that is trying to mediate is Israel. Between these powers, they're trying to mediate. Israel's going to Russia, saying, "Come on, let's do it like this. Let's make this work. Let's work this out." Then you go to Ukraine. Let's work this out. What do you want? What can we do? This and that and the other. Bernie Sanders versus Israel. Yeah, exactly. My friend Michael Brenner. That's actually quite funny. Yeah. Listen, my friends. Even within the Jewish people, you see these are internal conflicts. There are Jews who are going against Israel, right? Bernie Sanders. I was going to say Larry David versus Israel. Bernie Sanders. Yes. So yeah, guys, I mean, that's the story. But guys, as I said yesterday, you know, again, to go into a more earthly plane here, you know, the game of chess, and I said this yesterday, you don't necessarily need to take all of your opponent's pieces to win the game. You just have to position yourself in the right way, in the right way, to trap the king and checkmate him, right? That is the objective. The objective is not to you know, go scorched earth on the chessboard. And you know, we keep hearing about these losses that Russia's experiencing in men. Ladies and gentlemen, Putin doesn't care. He doesn't care for the lives of his people. He doesn't care for the human life whatsoever. He's willing to sacrifice 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 pawns in order to achieve either a checkmate or some sort of version of a stalemate. And then what he could do after that is negotiate from a position of strength and get what he wants, or get the maximum that he will be given, or that he will ask for. Okay? And that's basically the story, guys. And but I'll tell you guys, honestly, what Putin doesn't realize is that the grand chess master of them all, who is better than Kasparov, better than this Norwegian kid, I forget his name, better than any, you know, Deep Blue from IBM, it is none other than Hashem himself. And Bezrat Hashem, guys, Purim's coming up, and Bezrat Hashem, just like Hashem did it in the story of Purim with Esther and Haman and Mordechai and Achashverosh, Hashem will unravel the strategy of this would-be chess player, Putin, and he will show Putin, he will show yet another Russian chess player that there is someone better than him. Alright, guys. Shabbat Shalom, and I'll talk to you very soon.